Hey, deep divers, welcome back. So let's be real for a second. Your English listening practice, is it actually like fun, genuinely enjoyable? Or is it maybe met with a bit of a sigh, that feeling of, oh, I have to do this, maybe even dread?
Yeah.
If you've ever caught yourself thinking, ugh, not another boring listening exercise, then, well, you're definitely in the right place today. Because our mission, really, in this deep dive is to flip that script. We're moving past the idea that language learning has to be all about, boring repetition. We're going to draw on some really cool insight, stuff from educational psychology, neurolinguistics, and figure out how to make English listening not just something that works, but something you actually truly enjoy. We're talking about turning what feels like a total chore into something you might, believe it or not, actually look forward to, something that just slots into your life.
And that shift in perspective, it's so important. Our sources, the research and education, they consistently show why those traditional kind of monotonous methods, they just cut it for most people. They miss something fundamental about how we learn. We learn best when we're interested, right? When we're curious, feeling positive. Cognitive scientists like Stephen Krashen talk about the affective filter. Basically, anxiety, boredom, they can literally put up a wall, block you from absorbing the language. But when you lower that filter because you're actually having fun, your brain just becomes way more receptive. What's really fascinating is the neurological link here. Enjoyment isn't just a nice side effect. It's a powerful catalyst. Tapping into what you personally find interesting doesn't just make practice bearable. It can seriously skyrocket your progress. It lights up that intrinsic motivation, and that's way more sustainable than just feeling pressured, right? So we're going to explore some really practical, evidence-based strategies. Good for everyone, really, whether you're just starting out or you're pretty advanced already.
Exactly. It's not just fluff. It's about making the learning stick. Which, brings us right to our first big idea. Why fun isn't just nice to have, it's basically your secret weapon. So many of us, myself included, probably grew up with language learning that felt disconnected. Remember those audio clips? The ones made just for tests, often really stilted dialogue, super sanitized vocabulary. I mean, they have a place, I guess, but they rarely make you feel excited about the language. They just kind of drain your energy. Makes practice feel like ticking a box, not exploring something cool. But what if instead it felt less like homework and more like, getting totally lost in a great audiobook? Or maybe laughing along with a YouTuber you genuinely like. Our sources really hammer home this idea. Align your learning with your actual interests. That shift, it transforms passive listening into active, like joyful engagement. You stop just doing practice and start getting genuinely curious because you actually care about the topic, not just because you feel you have to understand. It creates this amazing feedback loop.
And what's fascinating, digging a bit deeper, is that the psychological and even neurological benefits go way beyond just feeling motivated. When you're truly enjoying something, your brain releases neurotransmitters, things like dopamine, endorphins. Dopamine especially isn't just about feeling good. It's critical for memory, for attention, for learning itself. It basically signals to your brain, hey, this is important, remember this. So new words, grammar patterns, even the rhythm of the language, they're more likely to stick. So if you find something that really grabs you, it could be a documentary, stand-up comedy, a podcast about, knitting, whatever your thing is, you're not just passively hearing sounds, you're processing, you're figuring out meaning from context, maybe even subconsciously guessing what's coming next. That kind of deep focus, that sustained engagement, it turns the chore into, almost a passion. And that deep absorption really sharpens your ear for nuances, for idioms, for how people really talk, all without that feeling of being forced to learn. You're building positive connections in your brain. Enjoyment reinforcing learning.
That positive loop, that's exactly what we want to build. So, okay, how do we actually do that? Knowing that fun supercharges learning, the next step is obvious, right? We dive into all the amazing resources out there. So this next bit is all about unlocking that world of engaging stuff. And I want to share some of my favorite types of resources. Best part, a lot of this stuff is totally free. We're talking, awesome podcasts that sound like real conversations, not lectures, YouTube channels that are actually fun and you learn stuff. Even like popular shows on Netflix or whatever streaming service you use, they can secretly be amazing listening practice while you're just chilling out. So here's a challenge for you. Think about what you already love watching or listening to in your own language. Are you a true crime fanatic? Love sci-fi, obsessed with history, cooking shows, whatever it is, chances are extremely high. There's awesome English content about it out there. The key thing, and research backs this up, the idea of comprehensible input, is finding stuff that's like the right level for you and keeps you totally hooked. Basically, turn your regular media time into a stealth language learning mission.
Highlighting the sheer amount of resources is great. But as our sources often stress, it's not just about what you find, but really how you choose it and interact with it. So when we say find something that's perfect for your level, what does that actually mean? Generally, you're looking for material where you can get the main gist, maybe understand, say, 70%, 80%, without hitting pause every 5 seconds or looking up every other word. If it's way too easy, you're not really stretching yourself, not much growth there. But if it's way too hard, you're just going to get frustrated, tune out. That effective filter goes right back up. A good sign is if you can follow the main story or argument, even if there are a few tricky words, but you still get the overall picture. And connecting this to the bigger picture, exposing yourself to lots of different types of resources. It doesn't just keep things interesting. It builds a much stronger, more flexible understanding of English. You're basically training your ear to handle different ways people speak, tons of different accents, British, Australian, various American ones, you name it, and different styles too, right? Formal speeches versus like super casual chats. This is so crucial for understanding English out in the real world because it's not going to sound like one standardized recording. Our brains love variety. It helps us spot patterns.
That's such a good point. It's strategic use, not just passive consumption. And part of that strategy is shifting how you listen, moving from just letting the sound wash over you to what I kind of like to call conscious engagement. Forget just hearing words flow past. This is about actively playing with the language, turning your listening into, a superpower. We're talking specific techniques here, things backed by cognitive science, like chunking when you take notes, not writing every single word down, obviously, but grabbing useful phrases, maybe common word pairings, the main idea. It means learning to spot the key information, figuring out the main points versus the extra details. What's the core message here? And here's one I find really helps with getting faster, trying to anticipate what the speaker might say next. When you start doing that, predicting, you're not just listening passively anymore. You're engaging with the ideas, thinking ahead. It really fires up those comprehension pathways in your brain.
Absolutely. And the practical side of these conscious engagement techniques, it really takes you beyond just hearing words. You start comprehending, analyzing, synthesizing information. Like with note-taking, you're not just copying sounds, you're processing the content, maybe noticing how things are structured and actively locking it into memory. So instead of just writing new strategy implemented, maybe you jot down company, new strategy, why. That little bit of mental work makes a big difference for retention. Spotting key info. That trains your brain to filter, to prioritize. That's a vital skill in any language, right? For following complex talks or even just busy conversations. And predicting what's next, that activates all your background knowledge of grammar, vocab, how conversations usually flow. Your brain is constantly testing little hypotheses in real time. That's why these methods work so well. They make listening an active, interactive mental workout, not just passive intake.
And speaking of workouts and changing how we do things, we absolutely need to talk about mistakes. Like seriously, we need a total mindset shift here. Understand that errors are data points, okay? They're not failures. They're not reasons to get down on yourself. They're actually super valuable clues about where you need to grow. Think of them less like roadblocks, more like signposts pointing the way forward.
Precisely. The research on error analysis, it's very clear on this. It's about changing your whole attitude, the process of looking at your errors, figuring out why you misunderstood something. It's not about beating yourself up. It's targeted improvement, data-driven, you could say. Every mistake tells you something specific. Was it a word you didn't know? A tricky grammar point? Maybe a certain accent just threw you off? By pinpointing the type of error, you turn that mistake into this powerful tool to get fluent faster. It tells you exactly what to work on next, so you can focus your study time really effectively. And this raises a really important question, one our sources often explore. How does deliberately analyzing your errors speed things up compared to just try not to make any mistakes or ignoring them when you do?
Yeah.
It builds a growth mindset. It turns a potential setback into a really precise, personalized learning opportunity. That approach is way faster than just passively practicing and hoping for the best. You become kind of like a detective for your own learning.
Totally. A learning detective, I love that. It's about being intentional, right? Turning every little stumble into a step up. Now, let's talk about widening our listening world. Actively seeking out different voices. One of the huge pluses of listening to real English from all over is hearing all sorts of accents, different speaking styles. It's not just about understanding, say, standard American or standard British English. It's about getting ready for the real world, where honestly, everyone sounds a bit different. I'm talking about finding English-speaking creators online, people who make learning feel less like school and more like just hanging out with interesting people. Folks who are super passionate about their thing, gaming, cooking, travel, movies, whatever, and they're sharing it in English. When you expose yourself to all these authentic voices, you're not just getting better at understanding accents, you're connecting with the language on a more human level. It makes English feel alive, rich, diverse, truly global.
That exposure to different accents and speaking styles isn't just nice to have. Our research suggests it's actually crucial for developing really solid, real-world understanding. Our hearing system is incredibly adaptable, but it needs that variety to really get good at recognizing speech patterns. If you only ever listen to one type of accent, your brain gets super tuned to just that, and then you're kind of stuck when you meet people who sound different, which, let's face it, is most people. So yeah, broadening that auditory palette really does make you a more versatile, confident listener in actual conversations. And thinking about psycholinguistics, when you listen to creators talking about stuff you're interested in, you're automatically picking up the specific vocabulary and ways of talking that are relevant to your interests. That kind of contextual learning is incredibly powerful for making things stick. And just to make this practical, maybe a little fun, we thought we'd try a little something. A mystery sound challenge. This isn't just a game. It ties directly into those practical listening skills we've been discussing.
That's right. Because, hey, learning should be an adventure sometimes. Time for our mystery sound challenge. It's a really fun way to kind of test your vocabulary, sharpen those inferencing skills, and honestly, it's just plain fun. Okay, so I'm going to describe an everyday sound. You, listening right now, try to picture it. Ready? Listen closely. It's a rhythmic, kind of dull thudding, often followed by a softer, sweeping scrape sound. You might hear it in the morning, maybe with the smell of coffee, or late at night after a busy day. Any guesses? What everyday activity or object makes that sound?
That's a great little challenge because it immediately makes you use multiple brain processes, doesn't it? You're not just identifying a sound in isolation. You're pulling together context clues, morning, coffee, late night, drawing on your knowledge of daily routines, using those sensory details and inferring the action. An exercise like that reinforces vocabulary, sure, but maybe more importantly, it strengthens your ability to build a mental picture, a narrative just from sounds. That's fundamental for comprehension. And this playful approach really shows how engaging low-pressure activities can be super effective for learning. They tend to lower anxiety, spark curiosity, get you problem-solving creatively, all while you're building core language skills without even really thinking about it. It's learning through discovery, through enjoyment. Proves that even simple games can have real educational punch.
Well, Deep Divers, we have covered a lot of ground today. Wow. If there's one big takeaway message, it's this. Your English listening practice. It shouldn't just be effective. It really, truly should be enjoyable. This whole deep dive was packed with practical tips, insights from how our brains actually learn best, all aimed at totally transforming your listening practice. From something you dread to something that brings you genuine pleasure and helps you make faster progress. We talked about why fun is your secret weapon, uncovered tons of engaging resources, looked at how to listen actively, like a pro, and hopefully reframed how you think about mistakes, seeing them as valuable data. And hey, because we know you're serious about diving deep, I've got a little extra for you. We put together a detailed script of this entire deep dive, all the examples, the insights we talked about. It's waiting for you on our website. Perfect for following along later, maybe give your reading skills a workout too, and just lock in everything we covered today. You can go at your own pace. So yeah, grab your headphones, turn up the volume, and get ready to unlock those English listening superpowers. But this time, with way more joy and curiosity. You can absolutely do this.
And as you head out on this maybe re-energized listening journey, here's something to chew on. What if getting fluent isn't just about grinding towards some finish line? What if it's more about constantly finding new things that bring you joy, connection, that stimulate your mind along the way? Because once you really tap into learning through things you genuinely love, those fluency boosters we talked about, they stop feeling like extra work. They just become part of your life, woven into your hobbies, your downtime, your passions. That shift transforms you, doesn't it? From just a student trying to reach a goal into someone who's a lifelong learner, constantly finding delight in the language itself. So with all these ideas swirling around, which superpower are you going to activate first? Which one will help make your English listening not just better, but truly brilliant and deeply rewarding?